Hey, welcome to the CGM podcast, and today we are continuing our conversation with John Roach is right here with us, our missions pastor. Last week, John, we opened up this discussion and talked about why we go on mission and what does that look like in our church, and so now we're going to we kind of left us hanging a little bit with kind of starting and beginning the conversation on strategy, but just ran out of time. And so now we want to pick up that conversation. But before we get there, I'm going to put you on the spot right here, okay?
Okay.
All right, name your top 3 hobbies.
Oh, top 3 hobbies. The first one that comes to mind, my family, we love ATVs. So
Okay.
We're not good at it.
That is all-terrain vehicles. Okay.
Yeah, so like four-wheelers, side-by-side, maybe a dirt bike or two. We love that. Second,
have you recently wrecked on any of those
second
ATVs?
Would be maybe.
Just tell us that story really quick.
It was hard to breathe for a while. That's all I'll tell you. And my children loved it.
Did you puncture like a rib?
I'm pretty sure I broke
lung?
7 ribs and dislocated my back.
Did you wreck a four-wheeler?
No.
Or a dirt bike?
It was a dirt bike.
You wrecked a dirt bike?
Yeah, my front wheel locked up and turned, and I flipped.
Were you trying to do a jump, or
maybe
were you on a ramp?
I was trying to beat Ethan, my oldest son. He was ahead of me, and I wanted to pass him. So it was very prideful.
Oh man, it's amazing that came up today. It just makes me so happy. All right, so tell us 2 more hobbies.
2 more hobbies, man. The other hobby, this is going to sound maybe silly, but anything to do with our kids. I don't know that that's a hobby, but we love being together as a family. They play sports, so
ball games, all of
playing,
it. Yeah.
So, and then third, would probably be just hanging with family. Frankly, I know that sounds kind of boring, but we really, we love our kids. I don't know if they love us, but we love being with them. So anything we can do with them.
I love because I have seen all of that played out in your family. I mean, I'm being serious. I have never seen a family live on mission better than you guys. And that's why I love that you're our missions pastor, because you don't just talk about it, you do it. And one of the things that I love about what you're bringing to our church family is these family mission trips. And so because that is a part of our strategy.
Absolutely.
But before we dig in to our strategy, talk about these family mission trips.
Yeah. And frankly, I think you'll hear some of this in the strategy talk.
Right.
So this idea is we want to start early with families. I really believe that being on mission, especially uniquely, distinctly separate from local missions, frankly, but there's room for that obviously as well. But when I take my children, like for instance, for the first time in our lives, Emily and I got to take our oldest, Abigail and Ethan, to Malawi last year. Right. Well, we're stuck in a country, 20-something hours away. They have to see what we're doing, and they have to learn, and they see the why and the how, and it's very different and upfront. Well, we're there with them, and if I'm gonna be the chief discipler in the life of my children, you say often, you quote Psalm 127 about being arrows in the hands of a warrior, and we want our kids to be champions for Christ, and champions for Christ go on mission. They live on mission.
Can you tell us? This is kind of personal, but maybe just in a broad sense. So that was y'all's first international trip together. I know y'all have been on several other family mission trips, but talk about, if any, I'm really putting you on the spot right now, but what kind of heart change did you see in Ethan and Abigail, the 2 kids? For those of you that don't know John's family, those are the 2 that went with y'all to Africa. Did you see any softening of the heart?
Absolutely. I mean, there was a perspective change from our current culture to what they saw. So extreme poverty. So what they wanted was different. Not that, I mean, we all struggle with materialistic thoughts and those kinds of things, but
absolutely.
they begin to consider it differently.
Wow.
But there was a boldness, because one of the things that I hope is always going to be a part of every mission trip that we have is that everybody on the trip has the opportunity to share the gospel. Well, what happened was my kids came back with a boldness to share. Now, it's not that they started canvassing their neighborhood and knocking on every door and telling people about it. It's not that kind of thing. But if I were to put them on the spot and say, hey, can you share the gospel with Michael or Connor or whoever, then they can do it because they've done it now several times on this trip. So that I think there's a boldness that came out of that quite frankly, I don't think they would have had they not gone.
I don't think that anyone that could possibly be listening to this could say, I don't want that for my kids. And the truth is the opportunity is not always there. The resources aren't there. I mean, going on mission is expensive. It takes a lot of dollars to get plane tickets. And but we've worked really hard as a church and to help bring some of these costs down. And even now we have some some subsidies that help in certain ways. And so I just want to give an encouragement. I mean, for anybody that's listening or watching, if you're thinking, man, I would love to go on mission, but there's no way we can afford it. Do not limit the Lord. Just don't do it. If you feel led, if you feel called that, man, God is leading me to go on mission, God is leading my family to go on mission, just trust the process. There are ways that we can help you, even fundraise. I mean, there are things that we can do as a church family and that you can do personally that the Lord uses to provide the way for you to go on mission. gabc.org/missions and pick out your trip.
And let me say, this is our job.
Yeah.
So don't let that be a deterrent. I try to tell people if money is an issue, it's not an issue.
Listen,
it's just not.
We're not going to live presumptuously because we're not going to presume on the grace of God. But the Lord owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. And even in recession and inflation, giving is down, budget, who cares? Listen, the Lord is in control. He is sovereign in 2020, in 2019, 2018, 2021, and today in 2022. God is sovereign. And so we're going to continue to move forward in what God has called us to do. All right. Now, how is missions truly done at Green Acres? Meaning, we talked about the heartbeat of why. Okay, we went to Matthew chapter 28. We talked about the Great Commission. The Great Commission is not an apostolic commission. It is a commission for all believers, all followers of Jesus Christ. We talked about Acts 1:8. That is the where you are to go, which is, by the way, here and there, not here or there, but simultaneous efforts through these circles of influence, right? But how does missions really function through the life of our church?
Yeah, primarily through connect groups, honestly. And that's both.
Okay, so I've heard you actually say this. So someone has come up to you and they said, hey, how can I get involved with missions? And I've heard you say, hey, your first step is to be in a connect group.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm sure you're about to go there and I interrupted, but tell us, why do you say that to people?
There's several primary reasons. Can you have several primary reasons?
I think you can have several in elections, you have several primary candidates.
So, there you go.
Okay, so
let's consider these candidates. They're not candidates.
No.
These
let's
reasons,
not even go. Let's not chase that rabbit.
So one, I think you see it first off in the Bible. So from Acts 1:8
that's a good start.
Yeah, you think? From Acts 1:8 to Acts 2, you see this product of community from Jesus' command to the disciples to go. Well, the next thing that happens is Peter actually takes him seriously, believe it or not. He preaches this sermon, and the church is born, right? And then they start gathering in community. And if you catch this in Acts 2, toward the end of the chapter, what Luke actually says is there was favor in the community toward these people. Why? Why would he say that? I think there's a couple of reasons. One, because God produced favor through the work of the Spirit in the community. But the way that he manifested that was through his own people, right? So they're loving the community and each other so well that the community saw favor, like they wanted these people around because they were different. So you see a local expression of taking the gospel where the gospel is not, through serving those that are in proximity to you.
Right.
Again, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria.
Right.
So that's a natural thing. But strategically for us, what we want to do is help our every connect group get connected locally. We want them to serve domestically. So like we have church plants in Fort Worth, potentially in Austin. We have a couple in Seattle that we have a connect group that's working with a church planter in Maine. So their group is going to actually go to Maine and help this guy. We have another, Boston, Colorado. So there's several domestic opportunities to get connected, but then also worldwide. Like we're focusing really hard as a missions team to primarily support, encourage, and empower churches that plant churches. So it really doesn't matter what community we're in. That's going to be our effort.
Right.
So 10-10-10.
That's
that
right.
way, planting churches in Tyler and beyond.
That's right.
Same thing domestically with our church planters, and then internationally.
So, we say this often with our Connect Group ministry. It's not, people all the time, they ask me, hey, why can't we just call it Sunday school? And here's the thing, I still call it Sunday school. And so like a lot of our staff, they'll get on to me like, hey, I thought it was Connect Groups. Why do you keep saying Sunday school? I'm like, well, listen, I grew up in Sunday school. All right. So, through my raising in the church, we had, I was a good Southern Baptist boy. I was in RAs on Wednesday night. I was in Sunday, and in Georgia, it's Sunday school. All right, it's not Sunday school. It's Sunday school. All right, and sometimes it's SCOO. Okay,
SCOO.
Sunday SCOO. All right, that's where I grew up. All right, and if my dad's listening, he still says that. I love him. All right, Sunday SCOO. All right, but the reason why we call it Connect Groups is because we want the vision of why that group exists to be proclaimed in its name. Okay? So why do we call it a Connect Group? Well, it's not Sunday school in the historical sense or in the traditional sense of where we come to just sit and listen. Okay? There's nothing bad about that. Listen, I am all about academics. Okay. I think I've proven that with the amount of money I've spent towards Liberty University. All right. I'm all about academics. Okay. But, that's not necessarily the design of the small group ministry for our church. Why? Because of what you're referencing in Acts chapter 2. What you see is a community of believers that has been forced into these smaller groups because of persecution, and which is historically the trend. Okay, you're seeing it right now in China and around the world. That when the church is persecuted, it flourishes underground. It's a beautiful thing. And you know what? America's probably not far behind. But the truth is that we want our Connect groups to have three primary elements that makes it a Connect group. So if you think of our group ministry with a pie chart, that 33% in each of these pies, okay, these pieces of the pie, okay, a third should be focused on theological development, meaning that when we come together, we are going to train in God's word because that is our foundation. That is our authority that undergirds all of our efforts in ministry. Is God's word. It is the only thing that is inerrant. It is the only thing that is infallible and that we are going to abide to. Okay. The second third, and this is in no order, but because there are thirds. Okay. But the second third would be a community focus, meaning fellowship, that community building, that we want to do life with each other. We want to love each other well. We want to care for one another. When you're sick, that we should be reaching out to you, caring for you and your family. And, that is the first hospital that we see in the church is through the small group, right? Okay. So the last third would be missional. All right. So you have theological, you have communal, and you have missional. Those are the three elements of our small group that we want to make sure that we are fueling week after week, because that is a healthy small group.
Yep.
And when you think about that missional aspect, that when you look at a small group, a third of their calendar, a third of their resources, a third of everything that they spend their time on or whatever it is, should be split in these ways as far as our focus. So what we want to do is fuel that with our missions team. We want to fuel that to make sure that we are equipping them to live on mission. And it's not that we only go on mission. It's creating and adopting this lifestyle that you don't say, oh, we've already done community today. I'm not going to mess with that. No, it's as you are going on mission, you're building community. As you go on mission, you're still undergirding it theologically. This is why we go, right? And vice versa. I mean, all of these things, they just intertwine and they intersect. But that's what we believe in a healthy small group. And so that's why as a church, we believe, okay, hey, if you want to go on mission, it should help with the overall strategy of our church that will there in return fuel everything within our church. You see, our Connect Group ministry is the engine that keeps the wheel spinning of Green Acres Baptist Church.
Yep.
All of we say this often, it is the lifeblood of the church is our small group ministry. And because of those things. So if somebody calls it Sunday school, am I going to be upset? No. I mean, I say that. If somebody's going to call it small group, are we going to be upset? No. The point is that we have an Acts 2 model, what we see through Scripture. And, here's what, and I'm going to end it right here on my small group talk, okay? But I think it's important for us to realize the reason why we have shifted from the model. So when we talk about models, all right, Sunday school is a primary model that we have seen in church history, in recent church history, obviously. But what we have seen is that it is primarily for theological study. But it doesn't necessarily exist for mission and community. Now, in pockets where people are doing it great, it's happening. Absolutely. Yeah, like at our church, we have some of the most faithful. In fact, I was with a group in the past couple of weeks that the teachers of that group have been teaching in Sunday school for 50 years. I mean, it's just phenomenal legacy. And I don't think they care. It's Bill and Anita Hopkins, man. They're just incredible in our church family, just leading so well. And they still call it Sunday school, But here's the thing: they're doing it right. Like they care for their people when someone is sick. I mean, they're attempting to go on mission together. But historically, what we have seen is that it only existed for theological training. Well, then you have this shift. Well, then you had missional groups come on. Well, all they did was they were just on mission, but they didn't undergird it theologically. They weren't training theologically, so they weren't studying God's word. And then you had this other shift that was the organic group model that really only existed for community. So they just kind of hung out together, but they never studied God's word. They never went on mission. And so you see these shifts over and over again. What we want to do is create a balance of theology, community, and mission.
That's right. And so it's also very important, though, because you're not just arbitrarily pulling these three pieces of the pie out of some conference that you went to or whatever. When you say an Acts 2 model, so when you read Acts 2, 42 through 47,
right,
you see those focuses very clearly. So things like when Luke writes, they were devoted to the apostles' teaching. Well, what is that? It's the theological training and understanding.
Exactly right.
And then, you can't read that without seeing the communal aspect from fellowship to praying together to sharing life together. You can't get away from it.
It says, okay, so they devoted themselves to prayer and to teaching, right? They devoted themselves to the breaking of the bread. So right there you have theology, you have a community, and daily they were adding people. Adding, what was it? I'm like totally blanking on that verse. They were
The Lord added to their number.
Thank you, daily.
Yes, daily.
All right, I'm really good with words. Okay, so yeah, but those are the three things. That's why we say, because God gave it to us clearly in His Word. You know what's interesting is this past week I came across this quote in Katie's dad's Bible in Acts. And I was just reading through some of his notes. For those of you who don't know, Katie's dad passed away when she was 11 and back in 1999. And I have his Bible. And
You just told everyone your wife's age, but it's fine.
It's fine. All right. She'll probably forgive me. I don't think she cares. She's 33. Anyways, but here's the thing. He wrote, the threat to the church in Acts was persecution. He said, the threat to the church today is prosperity.
Oh.
Is that not genius?
Wow.
Now, I don't know if he stole it from somewhere. He's not alive for me to be able to ask him.
Doesn't matter.
But how great
That's
is
good.
that quote? Because here's the thing. That's what you saw taking place organically, naturally in the book of Acts, is a flourishing of the church. The threat that we are seeing against small group attendance, worship attendance, the threat that we see against people going on mission, the threat that we see against people not willing to give financially and to support the church and things like that, it has nothing to do with persecution. It has everything to do with prosperity. And you would think, I wonder if we would have told, the early church, if they would have known the resources that were at our fingertips, I wonder what they would have thought. Because surely they would have thought to themselves, my word, if you have that, you can take over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars that just Southern Baptist churches are giving. And, I'm just wondering, John, I'm just going to put you on the spot here. All right. Again, I keep saying that. But I hope y'all know this. There are no notes. There's no map for this. We're having a genuine conversation right here. And I'm genuinely putting you on the spot. What do you see as a threat to the church living and being on mission?
Yeah, the whole time you were talking, I remember having a conversation with one of our church planners that we support in Malawi. His name is Pastor McLean. And I remember he and I were at a gas station in Malawi, and I asked him, I said, Pastor, I'm an American believer who is immersed in American culture. What advice would you give me as a follower of Christ? You understand our culture, you understand yours and the differences. And he said two words: slow down. Slow down. And that meant a ton to me.
Wow.
Because his perspective was in several areas of our life, but this is what I hear from people all the time. I can't go because I'm too busy. I can't go because I have to pay the bills. I can't go because our schedules, I've got to get kids here or there and those kinds of things. And all of those things are true. They're true. The problem is when we attach it to the idea of can't, then we're limiting God and what He wants to do in and through us. The truth is, I grow in my faith when I'm around others who have great faith.
Yeah.
I grow in my desire to see people come to faith when I'm around others who desire to see people come to faith. So if we limit ourselves to our schedules, I mean, frankly, we can talk about money in America. I definitely think that's probably a God for many of us. But man, maybe even in front of that, it might be schedule. So, I mean, I would just challenge, if you're watching right now, when you look at your own calendar on your phone, or if you write it down, or however you do it, do you intentionally calendar the things of God? Are they priority? Because I think what we do is we calendar, and we even say we're calendaring with our family in mind. Well, the truth is, family doesn't come before the gospel.
Yeah.
The gospel actually comes before the family.
Yeah.
And the gospel is for the family.
Right.
There is no greater effort for the health and well-being of a family than the gospel of Jesus Christ. So you cannot get those things out of order. So when the gospel fuels the family, mission is the result, period.
Yeah.
When the gospel fuels the family, mission is the result. It changes your schedule. It changes the way that you view money. Pastor Michael, last year, the first time that Abigail and Ethan and my wife went to Malawi with me, we had to raise $12,000. We don't have that kind of money. So we put it to prayer. We began asking those that we felt like could support us. And we raised $13,000. And when I say we, the Lord provided. That's why I said earlier, if money is an issue, it's not an issue. It's not because we're flippant or careless with money.
No, that's right.
It's because there are people who want to help. There are people who have gone before. There are people who want to empower. So I just, personally, I've experienced the grace and generosity of God.
That's right.
And I think He has so much more to give. So if we just say yes, I really think God's going to make a way.
So there are two things that I'm hearing you say. Create margin. Create margin in your schedule. Create margin financially. And there are people who are watching right now who know that they need to go on mission. There are people who are watching, listening right now who cannot go on mission, but they can fund that person that wants to go on mission. So to kind of just close our time, if you want to go, how do you sign up? If you want to give, how can you do it?
So both are in the same place. The easiest avenue is through our website.
Okay.
If that gets clunky or it's difficult, then I would say just email me, johnr@gabc.org, and we will get you connected. But you can register for all of our trips. When it comes to money, just let us know if that's an issue. There are several ways to approach this. We'll help fundraise. We'll work out payment plans.
Because y'all even have a plan put together on how to fundraise.
Yes,
and so
we will help you do it.
Listen, this is why I love our missions team, because they exist to remove obstacles for the church to go on mission. I mean, that's it.
That's it.
That's our job. And that's what I love about our church, is because our church is completely behind that. And they want to make sure that we are staying true to what God Himself has called us to do. Hey, thank you for your time, John. I appreciate your heart, your ministry, the way God is using you. But church family, listen, if you are a part of our church family or you are not, listen, we have a spot for you. If you want to go on mission, or if you want to join in, whatever you need to do, go to gabc.org. We're going to put a link up for you that's going to be directly, that will connect you directly to our missions page that we are talking about. But hey, we have loved this conversation. I hope it has challenged you. I hope it causes you to seek the Lord and what He is calling you to do.
Absolutely.
But we love you, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode and joining in on our conversation. If you liked what you heard or you want to know more about Green Acres, go check out our website at gabc.org or follow us on Instagram at gabc_Tyler. Have a great day.